What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at Old Bones Joe Brown. This man could box, he could fight. He was born May 18th, 1926 in New Orleans, Louisiana. He died December 4th, 1997. He was 71 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, he retired from boxing at the age of 42, and he was introduced into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1996. I had the pleasure of meeting Joe Brown. Knew him very well. Met him on 6 different occasions, 2 private sessions, and many times in between that. And Joe Brown was a special individual. He could dress. 2-piece suit, fedora hat. He would always have a handkerchief to match his tie. Cigar in his top pocket. With a pocket watch that was made of gold. Shiny shoes. And he had a certain stature about him that let you know that he had a lot of pride about himself. But when he got in that gymnasium and changed into his boxing attire, he meant business. He stood 5 foot 7.5 inches. He was a lightweight with a 68-inch reach. Total bout career of 185 fights, 121 wins, 55 knockouts, 47 losses, 11 knockouts that he was a victim of, 14 draws. Now, what was most sad about Joe Brown's career? Never got a title shot until 15 years of being a professional. 15 years after receiving punishment and dishing it back. He would meet up with Wallace Bud Smith. Bud Smith would take the title away from Jimmy Carter. He would become the lightweight champion of the world. Let's take a quick look at a few of his opponents. He would defeat fighters such as Kid Alfonso, Lester Felton, Ring Thompson, and Richard Germain, Charles Wright, Leonard Cesar, Francis Adam, and Jimmy Carter. Now, Jimmy Carter, to this day, the only lightweight champion who would have gained his title 2 separate occasions. He would be a 3-time lightweight champion. He knocked out Ike Williams in 1951 in the 8th round. He would lose his title to Wallace Bud Smith. But he would lose and regain his title from Patty DeMarco, Laura Lacis, or Laura LaSalle. Jimmy Carter could box. My grandfather knew him personally, and my dad knew him as well in Stillman's gym. And he said this man could punch and he could box. Brown was also in the ring with Arthur King, Booker T. Ellis, Isaac Jenkins, and Danny Bang Bang Whopper, Charlie Williams, Teddy Red Top Davis, Kenny Lane, Orlando Zulueta, very good Cuban fighter, Ralph Dupas, battling Torres, Virgil Akins twice, and he would defeat him twice. And he would take the title from Wallace Bud Smith. Now, he would lose some fights. Leonard Cesar, Buster Tyler, Sandy Sadler, who was a featherweight champion of the world, Arthur King, and Freddie Brown, Johnny Bratton, who would become the NBA welterweight champion of the world when he defeated Charlie Fusari. Tommy Campbell, that was an upset in 1951. And he would lose his crown to Carlos Ortiz. On Saturday, April 21st, 1962, Convention Center, Las Vegas, Nevada, for the WBA World Lightweight Championship contest. Carlos Ortiz was 25 years of age and stood 5 foot 7.5 inches. He had a 70-inch reach. Joe Brown was 35 years of age, stood 5 foot 7.5 inches, and had a 68-inch reach. As for Carlos Ortiz, it was 35 wins, 4 losses, and 13 knockouts. Joe Brown, 101 wins, astonishing. 22 losses, 12 draws, and 45 by the knockout route. Now, what was amazing about this fight, 7,000 spectators that were screaming loudly as the lightweight championship contest had heated up during the course of the bout. And Ortiz had put pressure on the legs of the 35-year-old old bones, Joe Brown. Joe Brown would set a record for the most lightweight championship defenses before he was eclipsed by Roberto Duran. Carlos Ortiz was born September 9, 1936, Puerto Rico. Fought from 1955 to 1972. 1972 would be the year that Roberto Duran would capture the lightweight championship in New York's Madison Square Garden over Ken Buchanan. Ortiz would fight fighters such as Sugar Ramos, Flash Couture, Kenny Lane, and Ishmael Laguna. Would knock out a fighter by the name of Len Mathis out of Philadelphia. He would throw 85 punches, connecting 82 consecutive before the referee, Pete Pantaleo, would step in. Fight took place April 13th, 1959. 6-round technical knockout. And that was a brutal beating. Len Mathis was undefeated coming in. Carlos Ortiz wasn't truly a knockout artist. 13 knockouts out of 35 fights. But he could punch in a way where he would rattle you. And once he got you hurt, he wouldn't stop punching. The only thing I can compare to that would be Ike Williams and Bo Jack in 1948. Brutal beating against those ropes in the 6th round. Little Flash Alarte was a Filipino southpaw with the heart of a lion. And Ortiz would be in the ring with him. He would face Kenny Lane, New York's Madison Square Garden, June 12, 1959, for the vacant New York SAC Junior Welterweight Championship crown. And he would become a world lightweight champion when he took on Joe Brown. 15-round unanimous decision. You see, Joe Brown was a fighter. But it took 15 years before he would receive an opportunity for the lightweight championship crown. And it was against Wallace Bud Smith. Let's take a look at a scrapbook of Joe Brown. This entire scrapbook is dedicated to the old bones, Joe Brown. One of my dad's favorite lightweights, so he wanted to make sure he had a book dedicated to himself. Let's take a look at that book. Now here you have Joe Brown. They called him Little Louis, but he was known as Old Bones Joe Brown. He would capture the lightweight championship belt, as you can see here, from Wallace Bud Smith. And Wallace Bud Smith was a very good fighter. You see me in there with Orlando Zulueta. Many fighters. Joe Brown was a special fighter. As we change pages, we're just going to scroll around and look at some of the articles of Joe Brown in his career. Here he's squaring off with Orlando Zulueta. He was a Cuban lightweight. Pretty good fighter himself. That's Joe Brown and his family. See, all the boys have the same shirt. Now, I told you that Joe Brown wanted to make sure he looked his best at all times. He was in that barbershop at least once a week. But in the finishing touches, see all the suits he had. He's a proud man. Sharp dresser. But like I said, he meant business when he got in that ring. You can see here, Ralph Dupas getting his hands wrapped. There are some fighters who put the stamp on what a champion should look like and behave. Joe Brown was the face of that stamp. It's when he fought Charlie Williams. Now this is the Joe Brown and Wallace Bud Smith fight. And my dad put this book together. Had loads of tail of the tapes from the newspaper clippings. And he just loved Joe Brown. You know him? And he always told me how great of a fighter he was. Made everyone laugh in the locker room. Just taking you to somewhat of a tour of this book. Says here Brown knocks out Lopez in the 11th round. Now this is the belt. A ring belt that was presented to Joe Brown. A couple of trophies that he would win during the course of his career. Now, Johnny Bozo was a very good fighter himself. And that would be him here, pleading with the referee not to stop this fight. See, performing at their best, trying to win that fight was so important to these fighters. Because it was basically their identity, represented who they actually were. Joey Lopez, they call him Candy Lopez. This when Joe Brown outpoints Kenny Lane. What I'm sharing with you is a special book that my dad made. And I'm trying to keep these books in his memory. Nat Flasher to your left. Wallace Bud Smith in the middle. And Old Bones, Joe Brown, wants to take a feel of that ring belt because that's what he was going to fight for. Now, he broke his right hand, but he had to finish and complete that fight. And that's what he would do, and he would become the lightweight champion of the world. Here you have Wallace Bud Smith laying on his side. But a force of dominance of Joe Brown. Here you have Benny Leonard, Henry Armstrong, Tony Canzoneri, Joe Brown, and Wallace Bud Smith. See Wallace Bud Smith pinned in the corner. So I just wanted to show you a perspective of Joe Brown, who's a very good fighter, very underrated. I wanted to expose him to you because when it comes to technical fighters, he's a good man to look at. Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Joe Brown, Old Bones. An incredible fighter he was. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Salute.